Hey there, everyone. This is Jeremy, the Music Andy, and we're here today to talk about Things Are Great from Band of Horses. Originally coming from Seattle, this is a band known for indie, folk, rock, maybe a little bit of alt country. And this is a band that has gone through a lineup change from the last album, removing 2 members and adding 2 new ones to replace them. Band of Horses is a band that came out when I was about 9 or 10 years old. The song The Funeral absolutely blew up. That first album kind of blew up, but not as the same way as that song The Funeral did. Everybody loved that track. I was into it. I was into the album after I kind of checked into it, but it really wasn't the type of music that I was listening to. I was in the indie zone, but I was more listening to like Modest Mouse and Arctic Monkeys, etc., etc. Though in saying that, I did think that that first album was pretty solid, and even going back to it recently, I still think it's pretty solid, and I think the second album is too. But after that second album, things started to get a little bit hairy with this 2016 one that just came out. It just felt a little bit formulated. I felt a little predictability coming with each track. None of the tracks really stood out from each other and kind of had their own unique individual experience. However, I felt that that has changed with this new release. I kind of went into this album expecting nothing. I listened to none of these singles. I was expecting to get about a quarter way through the album and just kind of stop there and get bored, but I didn't. Warning Signs started off like a track that I kind of expected to come with Band of Horses. Ben still sounds the same on the vocals, kind of boyish on it. But when the vocals cut on this, the guitarist really brought in some fuzz, really showcasing some experimentation, at least on the tone for the most part of what the band is known for. This is something that's going to be carried throughout this entire album. The band seems to be experimenting with a lot more different types of tones, maybe some tempo changes, some dynamic changes, some rhythm changes. They're really just having fun on it and experimenting a lot more as a group together. The fuzz on the first track gave me all the hope that I needed to continue marching on with this. This is an opening track that I don't feel is a bad opener, but I feel like is kind of blown away by the rest of the album that's to come. Crutch, the next track, almost has this kind of shoegaze feel to it. The vocals are very lush, they're very inviting, the melodies are very nice. The way that Ben sings kind of swings the direction into a whole bunch of different angles and ideas and rhythm changes, and it is just a very well done track. And again, it is experimenting with tones that the band I'm not very much accustomed to associating them with, but it is still very well done by it. Tragedy of the Commons almost feels like a Pine Grove track. It's kind of got a little bit of emo in it, it's kind of got a little bit of alt country in it, but it's definitely got that heavy indie rock feel to it. And at times, Ben almost sounds like Evan from Pine Grove on it. And then when we get to the midway point of this track, it almost starts hitting a kind of boiling over point. It really starts to slow down. We almost get into some slow chord territory with the way that the song is progressing. It's really well done. Super mellow, melancholy on the feel. Ben is doing a good job of keeping the emotions at a high. Layering of the instruments just gets more and more rich as you slowly kind of dance throughout the ending of this track. It's a beautiful track all the way through, especially at the end. In the Hard Times is a very folky song. It's kind of got a bounce to it, and it has a bit of a crawling speed to it. It's very round in sound. It doesn't really have any sharp notes going on except for Ben's boyish vocals as usual, but it is a very solid song. It's not particularly for me, but it is still well done, and it is definitely not a slow point on the album. In Need of Repair is heavy on the swing and somber in the feeling. The diving guitars really help complement the feelings that are kind of being created into this song. This is a more simple track, doesn't really have any bells and whistles going on with it, but it is still a nice track overall. And the boiling moments of this track is the weak part of it. It almost feels a little bit forced, and it's kind of lackluster on the payoff on it. Aftermath is probably my favorite track on this one. It's super floaty, it's drenched in reverb, delay, and the guitars are just kind of working around each other, messing around with their tones and seeing what's going to fit into the track. Having the vocals be almost as affected as the guitars and kind of sampled around the track really help complement these ideas, and it makes it feel like a full song. Lights is the track that you want to put on when you're driving. It's a super radio friendly song. It definitely is a little bit more predictable of a track. It's not one of my favorite ones, but it still has a very upbeat feel to it, that driving feeling, that bass thumping, just kind of keeping the ground floor of the track moving along. I wish it wasn't so formulated. I wish there was a little bit more surprises in it, a little bit more direction switches going on, but it's still a nice track. It's just not the one for me. Then we have the last 3 tracks of this album, and this is probably my favorite section of the entire album. Each one of these tracks are progressive, they're constantly evolving, they're really trying to make new ideas and sounds and tones work. You're never really going to find a comfortable moment in any of these sounds and ideas or sections of this, because they're just going to constantly switch and change it on you, so that you kind of are always moving around, as uncomfortable as the instruments are, but there is some comfortability in this. You're getting adaptive to each one of these environments, and they're all well done, well made. Ice Night We're Having is a song that it has a lot of push and pull going on with it. They are throwing a tremolo effect on the guitar that is done super well. Ben doesn't really have any direction with his vocals, but you're still along for the journey of the ride, just seeing everything as he's pointing to it and talking about it, and it just feels comfortable. The guitars, again, are a really shiny moment, as they kind of are in this entire album, but really at the end, when it starts to get intense and starting to boil over, it almost sounds like Do Make Say Think, which is post-rock, and if you're into that and you haven't heard about it, and about them, rather, then I definitely recommend checking them out. The last 2 tracks are playful on the rhythms, really kind of making a distinct memory each time I listen to this album or these tracks, or I think about this album. Choirs are brought in, and plucks on the guitar almost sound like a toy box being added to the track. Everything here is super fun, and it's fresh, and it's just a huge contrast in comparison to the rest of their discography, minus the first 2 albums. And even still, actually, to those first 2 albums. This feels like a very fresh listen of an album. I'm glad that I took the time to listen to this album, and I didn't put biased thoughts in my head, and I just tried something new, and I came out really liking this. If you're a fan of the band, or you used to be a fan of the band, and you didn't kind of like the direction they were going in, I think that you should check this out, because this is a very nice and alarming direction they're going in. I think it's well done from the group. Now, am I saying that this is a mind-blowing album and it's going to completely change my life and I'm going to listen to this every single day of my life? No, but it is still a very enjoyable, pleasant album to listen to. So I'm going to give this 7.5 crutches out of 10. What did you think of this album? What albums would you like me to review in the future? Please leave a comment below and let me know. Subscribe if you like the content, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you.